Well, we're in the book of Job and we're in chapter 21. Zophar has just finished taking his second shot at Job, and Job just can't resist answering back to Zophar and to those that have spoken to him. And he says, listen to me. Remember that Zophar had said that by his experience and what he had heard and what he observed, he had come to the conclusion that the wicked get punished and that they don't live long. And here's what Job has to say in response. He says, listen to me. And after that, if you want to mock me, go ahead and mock me, but listen to me. My complaint is not against man. What he's saying is my complaint is against God. I don't understand why I'm going through this. And he says, so why shouldn't I be impatient? Now that deals with people that go around saying that Job is all about a book of patience, but Job was not really patient. And he says, why should I not be patient? Just look at me. Now, can you imagine looking at Job in his physical condition and recognizing all that he had with his family and with his material possessions, seeing all of those burst boils and skin that has started to rot and decay because he scraped those boils. He said, just look at me. Why shouldn't I be impatient? And then he goes on and he answers Zophar and he says, my experience is that the wicked just continue to live. They become powerful. They have families intact. They have nice homes. They're safe. The rod of God is not on them. Their livestock flourishes. Their children are alive and healthy. And they seem to even die in their prosperity at the regular normal age. Notice that he deals with some of the very areas where he has been attacked. Families are intact. Well, his family was gone. Houses are good. His house is gone. The house of his children is gone. The rod of God seems to be on him. And he says, and the children are alive and healthy and they're living in prosperity. And he said, if I'm so wicked, then it doesn't compare with what I see that's happening with the wicked. They seem to continue on doing very well for themselves. Even if they say, he says in verse 14 through 16, even if they say, depart from me, God, we're not going to serve you because we don't need you. So he's saying even when they're blatantly speaking against God, they still seem to do well. And that doesn't match up with what Zophar has just said. He says very carefully, he says to them, just understand this. No one can teach God. Everyone dies. Some die satisfied, some die distraught, but they all die. And it makes no difference if their eternity is hell. Behold, I know your thoughts towards me and the wrong that you would do to me. And you believe that the wicked are reserved for calamity. But that's not the case. That's not what I've observed. He goes on in verse 34 and he says, and how then will you vainly comfort me? Remember, that was the very goal of the three that came to visit. They were to comfort and sympathize and empathize with Job. And he says, you vainly comfort me. And here's what he says, for your answers are filled with falsehood. They claimed that they were answering from wisdom, observations, and hearing, and yet Job could see right through it. And based on his own experience of looking at the world around him, the wicked very often prosper. The very worst people sometimes do very well and die satisfied. But where do they go from there? So how do we apply this? How do we apply Job's answer? Well, I think it's really important because I've been sucked into it myself. When we get into a debate or a discussion that is going nowhere, don't elevate it. Sometimes it's better to say we'll just agree to disagree and we'll go our separate ways. This is probably the time when Job should have said, guys, I really appreciate you having come. I appreciate that you sat with me for a whole week in silence and that you sympathized with me, but I think it's time that we part company. I think it's very important for us to know when to end a discussion. Many times, so many things are said in discussion that gets heated that we later regret and that have caused a wedge between us and others. Second thing that I noticed as I looked at this particular section is the truth speaks for itself. It's very, very clear that many wicked prosper and many good people suffer. And that we may not understand it, just as Job didn't understand what was going on. But one day maybe we will. One day maybe in heaven we'll understand all of the reasons why God allows the wicked to prosper and the good people to suffer. But for now, our problem is not why, but what now. We need to be sure that we look for what God wants to say to us, what he wants us to do in our life situation, and to move forward advancing his kingdom. And that's my thought for the day. And God bless you and have a great day.